Here I come again. I want to draw attention of all voters to a very sensitive point, that democracy doesn't work in Markham. There are a lot of hurdles caused in democracy. Last time there was a mayoral candidate, Sam Rick, who ran with us against Mayor Scarpati. He was, to my belief and to the belief of a lot of people, he was framed up in an assault case, and the witness happened to be, which I didn't know, my own campaign manager. And it came as a real shock to me that my own campaign manager was a witness, and the lone witness, Bernadette Manning, was a lone witness, and I came to know after the campaign had finished. And Mayor Scarpati didn't do anything to address that issue, and that poor chap is suffering. He went through a criminal charge on just based on one witness. I also experienced similar things. Whenever I went to the town of Markham, they tried to intimidate me. I went on a number of occasions, and development staff would call sometimes security. Sometimes there was Joel Lustig. I went to him just to get my deposit for grading deposit back, and then he was about to call security. So I complained all these incidents to mayor, and I think this thing had percolated downwards from the mayor's directions, that he didn't like me. He didn't like any opposition. And I was so vulnerable, especially as a member of visible minority there with a turban on my head, that there was so much intimidation that I had to ask mayor that I should, whenever I visit town, there should be some independent member of the staff who should accompany me. So such is the intimidation tactics they use. Now the mayor has gone a step ahead. I write articles for Markham Times, and I criticize the city. I criticize, in fact, I started writing more based on consumer reforms, and because I am a passionate, very passionate about consumer harassment, because I feel consumers are depressed in whole of Canada. I want to elevate their status with respect to corporations. But I started writing about municipal politics also, because as I entered the election fray, I wanted to inform voters as much as possible about budget, debt, and a lot of things. Mayor went ahead and issued directions to the council that nobody should support Markham Times newspaper. He banned Markham Times newspaper in libraries, which is a suffocation of media. It means we didn't have any recourse. We don't have recourse to what he does, and he will continue to do these things, and there will be only one paper which will toe the line of the establishment, and that is all you will have. You will not have a open view, more dissective view of what is happening in the town. So he banned. How can a person ban a newspaper going to libraries? That is publicly owned institutions. And how can a council or mayor do that? They did not support Markham Times with advertising just because Partap was writing for that paper, and they wanted to pull that paper down. And there's so much of advertising revenue given by town clerk Miss Kittringham, who was also the returning officer for these elections. She should have been unbiased in giving election advertising to all media equally. But because mayor had given her directions, she said that director of communications controls that advertising, although the election fund is supposed to be controlled by the returning officer. So that discrimination was there to suffocate the media. And when we complain that director of communications, human resources director doesn't give us information, mayor did nothing, the councillors did nothing. So this is the type of council which will continue, that when taxpayers want information, they will say go to hell, and we have no recourse. Another thing I want to say very precisely is I'll fight for recall legislation, so that every councillor or mayor or deputy mayor or regional councillor can be removed from office if he doesn't perform, and if he has made certain promises and during the course of time he doesn't work for those promises, the electors should be able to recall that and get him dismissed. At present, the only way to remove these councillors and mayor in 4 years is if they miss 3 months of meetings, which they rarely miss, and there is no other recourse even if they create blunders. Now, other thing, there is a lot of there are a lot of kickbacks, there are a lot of issues which are talked about at those levels. One of the biggest thing which has attracted is the Miller waste contract of $64.5 million. You should all go to my website partapdua.com and see there I have written details about most of these things. Now, what was the purpose of giving contract without bidding to Miller Waste Management? So this creates a doubt that there is some sort of element of kickbacks or something. Unless they can prove otherwise, public will have those doubts. Same way, the debt which was issued by $2.2 billion debt issued by York region, where our mayor and councillor sit, and that is indirectly debt of Markham, because each Markham resident will have a debt load of each family will have a debt load of $15,000 next year. Today we have $10,000 and they are going to increase it. They have paid, to my knowledge, about $50 to $60 million, maybe $40 to $60 million in that range in commissions, because I worked in that industry and I know when they issue debentures or bonds, the brokerage firms and underwriting firms are given commission. Now, did they ask someone for giving so much of taxpayers' money to those people? No. So that is what I am trying to say. Won't there be kickbacks involved there? Wouldn't there be an element of doubt there? They never discussed those debts. Although Markham was the biggest municipality in York region, we contribute 1/3 of those taxes and we service that debt. They never informed Markham voters. So you have to consider these things. And at those levels, we shouldn't be only going after Jim Jones. We should be saying the whole council, which have been sitting, they are moving in tandem. We don't know what the hell they are doing. So this is one reason I want you to wake up. Last very sensitive issue which I want to touch before I leave, the issue of white minorities. The white population has become a visible minority in Markham, and that's with evolution of demographics, and it is sad also because they built Markham over 200 years. But because of my appearance and because how I write very boldly, a lot of white voters perceive that I am for minorities. I am not for minorities. Now whites are in minorities. I am for everyone. I want to elevate the status of all communities in Markham and want them to move side by side, shoulder to shoulder in building a Markham. I want racism to end. Even if people have been inherited racism from their ancestors or parents and all that, in modern world it has to end. Muslims are fed up with me because I wrote certain articles about them. And they told me, I gave a very frank opinion because I wanted to open a dialogue between Muslims. I felt their corner and I like them. I like all communities. I like Sri Lankans. I like Tamils. And that's why I wrote a very strong article about Tamil refugees in Markham Times. And now the Muslims are saying,